Welcome to Spanish 2110 online at Metropolitan Community College. I'm Anita Salfeld. I have a separate introduction video of myself posted in Blackboard, so if you like, feel free to take a look at this. This video is going to walk you through the basic course structure, and so our objectives for at the end of the class today, or the end of the video today, is that you'll know the basic structure of the course, how to navigate Blackboard in My Spanish Lab, where to find your assignments, what you need to do for this course. So, the two main sites are Blackboard and My Spanish Lab. We're going to start with Blackboard. And I've already got it open in another window here, so I'm just going to go in here. The landing page is the announcements page. I've got an introduction to the course here, and then I just sent out an announcement via email that you should have received. If you're joining a little bit late, if you registered after I send this out, you won't have received this in your email. But this announcement goes over what you need to buy for the class, which is basically just the code. You do not need to have a hard copy of the textbook. You just have to have the code. If you've already taken 1110 or 1120 at Metro, you should already have the code. You shouldn't need to buy anything. If you haven't, what the bookstore is selling for $168 is a multi-semester code. You don't need a multi-semester code because it should only take you 1 quarter to complete this course. So you can buy the 5-month access code directly from the publisher here for $100. If you think, hey, I might want to have access to come back and review stuff, and if you're learning Spanish for personal reasons, for example, and you want to have access to the content, then you might still want to buy the multi-semester access code. In that case, it is still cheaper to buy it directly from the publisher. You can get it for $150, save about 20 bucks over buying it from the bookstore. Okay, so that's the announcements. Syllabus and course information. This is the stuff that you need to know for My Spanish Lab. There are 2 things that you will need to access My Spanish Lab. The first one is the code that you will buy from the link that I just showed you. And the second is the course code, which is right here. And that enrolls you in the proper section of the course so that you're in my section. I can monitor and see what you're doing and give you feedback. Without that, you are just in the void, not in a Spanish class. I think you have access to the material, but you won't be actually enrolled in a course. So here is the syllabus. I'm not going to read it because that would be super boring. I just want to hit the high points so you know kind of what the most important things are. My contact information is in here. It's also in Blackboard. Very important, you need to use and check your Metro email. I send out emails through Blackboard, and the emails through Blackboard always go to your Metro email address. Sometimes schools let you change that and customize it so it goes to an email address that you might use. Metro does not allow that, and it's good. It's for proper reasons to make sure that you're maintaining your confidentiality and privacy. But the point is, you cannot change that email address, so you must check your Metro email address. This is my main way of communicating with you in an online class, so make sure you're checking that regularly. At least once a day, please. Weekends, fine, whatever, don't check it, but at least once a day during the week. Okay, you should have had some version of Beginning Spanish 1, Beginning Spanish 2 if you're signed up for this class. If you haven't, I would strongly reconsider and possibly take a different class, because otherwise you might cry because it might be too hard. No, you won't cry, but it might be too hard. And it's hard to pass. If you miss one of those semesters that you're supposed to have, it is hard to do well in this class. Okay, so objectives. The required material is the code. You really only need the single semester code, which we've gone over. All right. Here we go. This is important. What do you have to do for every chapter? There's participation, 20% of your grade, which is the Práctica Oral and discussions, which we'll see in My Spanish Lab in just a minute. The Student Activities Manual is 20% of your final grade in compositions. And then exams, 45%, and your final is 15%. So that's the grade breakdown. Now, late work is accepted up to 1 week late. After 1 week, it is a 0. This does not include exams and does not apply to the final week assignments. So if your exam is late, it is a 0. And the finals week, the last week of class, I cannot accept things late because I have to have your grades in, and if you had that 7 days, then I would not have your grades in time, and you would be angry, and Metro would be angry, and everyone would be angry. So the last week, they have to be in on time, and exams always have to be in on time. Okay, All your grades will be recorded in my Spanish lab. At the end of the quarter, I'll put in final grades in Blackboard, but since all the assignments are in my Spanish lab, that's where you will see your grades. Okay, Census Date. This is a requirement based on federal regulations. In a regular face-to-face class, you need to actually attend class once before the census date, otherwise you'll be dropped. In an online class, you have to complete an assignment, and the assignment that you have to complete, you have to log into Blackboard, review the syllabus, log into my Spanish lab, and complete at least one assignment, ideally the first discussion board posting, but you need to complete some kind of assignment in my Spanish lab before the 18th of June. So make sure you do that. If you do not do that, I cannot leave you in the class. I have to drop you to be in compliance with federal regulations. So make sure you complete that assignment. The rest of this you can look over at your leisure. There's a schedule, tentative schedule that kind of goes over when things are. The exams we'll talk about in just a minute, but they're always open for a week. All right, we'll talk about that when we talk about my Spanish lab. So let's go close that out. My Spanish lab, this link will take you to my Spanish lab. We'll go over there in just a minute. Okay, I talked about this. This is a code that you need to enroll in our section of the class, so make sure you have that. Yeah, I think I said that. Sorry, I've done another video for another class, so now I'm trying to remember what I said already. Lessons. Most of your lessons are actually in my Spanish lab. This is just supplemental information. So you start here to get the introduction. You can read that. And then for each chapter, there's the objectives, things you're supposed to be able to do with the language at the end of the chapter. With a bit of a mangling of some of the symbols there. And then these handouts are just sort of grammar explanations. They may or may not be useful to you, so if they're not, just feel free to ignore. But they're there if you want them. And then there's a link for every chapter to the My Spanish Lab stuff. You don't need to actually go into here to get to my Spanish lab because you can just get to it from right here. Okay, so that's lessons. I am actually trying to create videos. This will totally depend on how much time that I have. So there are lessons, there are tutorials in my Spanish lab, but sometimes it's helpful to hear it in a different way. And so my goal is to at least hit the high points, the more complicated things, in a video that I will post in a Blackboard in case you get stuck. And you are free to watch them or ignore them, whatever you want. I will be adding, as I have time, adding interactive elements, so you can sort of like watch and then answer some questions, so that it's not just watching a video. Because like in math class, you watch the teacher do the math problem, and then you try to do it, and you're like, crap, I don't remember how to do it. Seemed like doable when I was watching the teacher, but once you try it. So I'm going to add questions so that you kind of get some practice doing these things. And so this is where the videos will be. There's an introduction video to me, and then this video will be right here once I finish it. Alright, so that's videos. If you want to send an email, you can send an email from here. If you want to check your email, this is the link to your Metro email account. Your grades are not, at the end of the quarter I will post them in here, but all your grades will be in my Spanish lab, so this is basically, you can just ignore it. Okay, so then let's go over to my Spanish lab. This is the view that you will have when you log in. And there's an intro here. The intro is basically the same as Blackboard, so you can read it or not read it, whatever you want. There's a couple ways that you can access your assignments. You can click on this Assignments tab, and it'll give you the calendar, so you can say, okay, I can see I've got an assignment here. So, okay, there's your first assignment. Discussion, introduction. Okay, you should do this right away so that you do not get dropped from the course. So you'll click on this, and you'll see for all the discussion board postings, you have to actually expand the directions. Otherwise, you just click on it and go, what is this? What am I doing? And so there's the instructions. You're going to write un breve párrafo, por lo menos 150 palabras, so that's at least 150 words, presentándose a sus compañeros, so introducing yourself. You're going to incluye tu origen, tu énfasis, tus pasatiempos e intereses. So where you're from, what you study, and what your pastimes and interests, hobbies are, that kind of thing. Okay, so things that you think that other people might want to know about you, basically. Okay, making sure to use the language that you've learned from your previous Spanish courses. So One of the important things is making sure that you're not just going and looking up words in a dictionary, because you're not going to retain most of those words. So try to use what you know to the extent that you can. If you need to look something up, great, but if you're looking up almost everything, you shouldn't be doing that. That's going to be a problem because you're not retaining very much. Okay, so then you're going to post your response, post your discussion board response, and you can find all your assignments here. You can also find them on this main page on the calendar. It will show you every time there's something due. There will be a check mark or an alarm clock. The exams, I just learned this, do not show up until they are open. And so your first exam, start here, the exam is open from Monday through Sunday. So your first exam will open on the 12th and it is due on the 18th. It apparently will not show you that until the 12th when it opens. But when it opens on the 12th, it will give you a notification telling you that the exam is open and you can take it. And you can take it anytime during that week. It does have to be done by the 18th at 11:59 p.m. Make sure you leave yourself adequate time. Okay, so you can click on that. That'll show you once the exams are open, they will show up on the calendar. But just really quickly, on Wednesdays, the discussion board postings are due. On Thursdays, all of the student activities manual assignments are due. On Fridays, the oral assignments are due, and on Monday your compositions are due, and on Sunday the exams are due. So everything is due on the same day, and it should take roughly the same amount of time. So you know, like Thursdays, student activities manual. That's going to be a really horrible day if you save that until Thursday to do, because there's a lot of them. So I would start those early. The rest of them you can probably do on that day without a lot of trouble. Okay, but Thursdays, that's going to be a bad day if you don't start that sooner than Thursday. All right, so the materials that you need are in here for each chapter. So you can click on course materials, and then for each chapter, here's what you will see. This readiness check. Okay, sorry, I interrupted. My son fell and skinned his knees and he wants mama. Okay, so the readiness check is basically going over grammar that you might find useful prior to starting the chapter. You may or may not find this useful, so you can check into it, and if you don't find it helpful, then don't feel like you need to do it. It's not graded. This is just to help you. So you might need to know conjunctions. So what are conjunctions? If she needed a ride, but she wanted to walk. That's a conjunction. Okay. Anyway, it's debatable whether these English tutorials actually help people learn a second language or not, because actually learning the grammar doesn't mean you're able to use a language. But it might help you. It might help you get those ideas. So if it's useful, use it. If it's not, don't. Okay, the main focus is going to be in here, the vocabulary and grammar instruction. There's a bunch of tutorials for vocabulary and grammar. I'm going to go fast because my recorder is going to cut me off for 2 minutes. So here you can click on this.
El bombero.
El bombero.
La bombera.
La bombera. And you can go through and look at the vocab. And then for the grammar, same thing. There are tutorials. You can open the grammar tutorials. There are videos that you can watch.
An informal command is an order or request made to
And
someone
you can do
with whom the
comprehension
speaker uses
check.
the to form.
Click on the to form. Vive. Okay.
Regular to commands use the same verb forms as the third person singular of the present
And
indicative.
there's only one of those. Okay. Okay, so that's the course materials. Then you can also access the assignments through this folder, but I would actually just go through the assignments, because otherwise you're going to be, the architecture will, you will get lost in all of the folders and subfolders. So I would actually just go to the assignments calendar or go to this calendar, click on this to see what you have to do, and then just open the vocab and grammar tutorials from here. Okay. So that is my Spanish lab. All of your grades will be in here. If there are comments, if I've left you feedback, it will be, you can just access it right here. Sometimes the numbers aren't right. It'll tell me that I have 8 gazillion things to grade and I've graded everything, and it still tells me that I have everything to grade. So these numbers are not always accurate. So if you've read all my comments and it's still showing you comments, that's just the system. Sorry about that. Okay, so your homework in the last 15 seconds is to enroll in the online workbook using the links from Blackboard. You've got to buy your workbook code and use that, and use the course code that's in Blackboard. and complete your first discussion board posting in my Spanish lab. If you have any questions, please let me know. Welcome to Spanish 2110.